Gloria, come over here now.
Excuse me, you do not get to talk to me
The ward accounts, the checks to your shell companies,
dare
is
you.
documented.
To her wards and to Philadelphia Orphans Court, Gloria Byars was a protector. To federal investigators, she was the architect of $1 million theft from the people who trusted her most.
I have given years to this work, and you walk into my office and
36
accuse me
Krugerrands
of...
out of a safe
This is
deposit
an
box under
insult.
your guardian authority.
You have...
She would not get the chance to walk out of that doorway. By the morning of June 17, 2021, FBI and IRS criminal investigation agents had a federal grand jury indictment with her name on it, the names of her brother and her third conspirator, and a paper trail running through more than 100 bank accounts. The court that had appointed her to protect the most vulnerable people in Pennsylvania had instead appointed the architect of the largest guardianship fraud the Eastern District had ever charged. Over $1 million stolen, at least 120 victims, 6 years of unauthorized checks moving under fake medical invoices to shell companies in Virginia. And the catalyst that finally ended it was a single piece of paper from her own past. This one hit different when I found it. If you think you know where this story is going, drop your prediction in the comments below. And subscribe, because I promise you, you're wrong. The catalyst in this case is one of the rarest I have ever covered on this channel, and the reform it triggered quietly changed how an entire city now handles court-appointed guardianship. Tell me in the comments what you think a guardian is supposed to be. Then watch what this one actually was. Gloria Byars was born in Philadelphia in 1962. Her family lived in a brick row house on the east side of the city, near 52nd Street, the kind of block where families knew each other's children by name, and the same crossing guard worked the same corner for 30 years. Her mother worked in food service at Mercy Hospital. Her father worked for SEPTA, the regional transit authority, as a maintenance mechanic on the trolley lines that ran out toward Darby and Yadon. They had 2 children, Gloria and her younger brother Carlton Rembert, 3 years apart, raised in the same back bedroom of the same row house for the first decade of their lives. Neighbors remembered Gloria as the organized one. She kept her school books alphabetized in a cardboard box under her bed. She balanced her mother's grocery receipts at the kitchen table on Sunday nights. By the time she was 13, she was already filling out the family's utility paperwork because her father trusted her handwriting more than his own. She graduated from West Philadelphia High School in 1980 with honors and enrolled at Community College of Philadelphia for an associate's degree in business administration. She worked nights at a payroll services office near City Hall to pay her tuition. Her supervisor at the time, in a reference letter that surfaced decades later in an unrelated proceeding, described her as detail-oriented, reliable, and unusually patient with the elderly clients who came in needing help reading their own checks. She finished her degree in 1984 and took a full-time bookkeeping position at a small law firm in Upper Darby. For nearly 20 years, Gloria Byars built a quiet, respectable career in the back offices of Delaware County. She married in 1988. She and her husband bought a modest twin home in Aldan, a borough of fewer than 5,000 people just southwest of Philadelphia, on a street where everyone waved from the porch. She raised a daughter. She helped with the books at her local church. She volunteered for a community senior outreach program 2 Saturdays a month. To the people who knew her best, she was someone you could trust with the numbers, someone you could trust, period. But in 2003, something quietly changed. A wealthy widow in Drexel Hill, a woman in her late 80s whose only son lived out of state, hired Gloria as a personal financial assistant. The arrangement was informal, the kind of side work a trusted neighborhood bookkeeper takes on at a discount. The widow's son later told federal investigators his mother adored Gloria, called her every evening, and considered her family. Over the course of 14 months, Gloria Byars wrote checks against the widow's accounts totaling approximately $29,503. None of those checks were authorized. None of them paid the bills the widow believed they were paying. Federal prosecutors charged Gloria Byars in 2005 with wire fraud and bank fraud. She pleaded guilty. She was sentenced to 37 months in federal prison and ordered to pay $29,503 in restitution. She served her time at a federal women's facility. She came home to the same twin house in Aldan in 2008. Her husband had waited. Her daughter was now in college at Temple. The neighbors did not ask questions, and Gloria did not offer answers. By 2009, she was working again, first as an unpaid administrative volunteer, then as the paid office manager at a small guardianship firm in Media, Delaware County. The firm handled court-appointed cases for incapacitated adults, elderly dementia patients, disabled adults without family, victims of strokes who had outlived their power of attorney documents. Gloria managed the firm's case files. She learned the court forms. She memorized the petition process. She watched, from inside, exactly how the entire system worked. In 2016, she founded her own company. She called it Global Guardian Services, LLC. She filed the paperwork with the Pennsylvania Department of State, opened operating accounts at 2 regional banks, and submitted her credentials to Philadelphia Orphans Court for consideration as a court-appointed guardian. The court reviewed her application. The court approved it. Within 18 months, Gloria Byars was the appointed legal guardian for more than 100 incapacitated people across the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. To understand what happened next, you have to understand what a court-appointed guardian actually is and what powers the law hands them the moment a judge signs the order. In Pennsylvania, when a person becomes legally incapacitated through advanced dementia, traumatic brain injury, severe mental illness, or any condition that prevents them from managing their own affairs, and when no family member is available, willing, or trusted to take on the role, the Orphans Court appoints a guardian. The guardian becomes, in the eyes of the law, the ward's hands. The ward cannot sign a check. The guardian signs it. The ward cannot enter a bank. The guardian enters it. The ward cannot decide which house to live in, which doctor to see, which medication to take, or which retirement account to draw from. The guardian decides all of it. The guardian holds the keys to the safe deposit box. The guardian receives the Social Security checks. The guardian has signature authority over the pension. The guardian has access to the thrift savings plan, the IRA, the 401k, the certificates of deposit, the savings bonds, the deed to the house, the title to the car, and every piece of paper the ward accumulated across a lifetime of work. The court grants this authority on a single premise. The guardian will protect the person who cannot protect themselves. The oversight is supposed to come from annual accountings filed with the court. The guardian submits a report listing every expense paid from the ward's funds. The court reviews. The court approves. In a system designed for honest professionals, it works. In a system stretched across thousands of active wards, with overworked clerks and limited audit resources, it depends almost entirely on the guardian's honesty. Philadelphia Orphans Court in the mid-2010s was processing more guardianship cases than at any point in its history. The baby boom generation was aging into incapacity. Family structures were fragmenting. Adult children had moved out of state for work. The court needed guardians, and it needed them in volume. When Gloria Byars submitted her application in 2016, the court had no mechanism in place to check her name against the federal criminal database. There was no requirement that an applicant affirm a fraud-free history. There was no state criminal history report attached to a guardianship petition. The petition went into a stack. A judge reviewed her education, her professional history at the media guardianship firm, her 2 character references, and her business license. She walked through the front door of the system with a federal fraud conviction in her past, and the door closed quietly behind her. The first unauthorized check Gloria Byars wrote as a court-appointed guardian cleared on a Wednesday in November of 2016. It was drawn from the operating account of a 91-year-old woman in Lansdowne, a stroke survivor with advanced dementia whose only living relative was a cousin in Florida. The check was made out to a company called Premier Medical Logistics, LLC. The amount was $4,200. Premier Medical Logistics, LLC did not exist as a medical company. It was a shell entity registered in Virginia by Gloria's brother, Carlton Rembert. Its bank account had been opened 6 weeks earlier at a regional bank in Norfolk. The name had been chosen carefully. Anyone glancing at the ward's bank statement would see a medical expense and move on. That was the entire design. Over the next 2 years, Gloria Byars wrote checks of the same shape, in the same handwriting, from more than 100 different ward accounts. The recipients were always corporate names made to look like medical services. Coastal Medical Solutions, LLC, Atlas Healthcare Administration, Meridian Patient Services, each one a shell, each one controlled by Gloria, by her brother Carlton, or by a third conspirator named Alicia Mitchell, who managed the day-to-day mechanics of the deposits and the transfers between accounts. The Virginia banking strategy was deliberate. Pennsylvania has its own criminal investigators. Virginia has its own. The Eastern District of Pennsylvania has jurisdictional reach, but money moved across state lines made the paper trail harder to follow for any single county auditor. By the time a check left a ward's Philadelphia bank account and landed in a Norfolk business account under a medical-sounding name, 3 sets of paperwork would have to be cross-referenced before anyone realized the medical company was a fiction. The escalation followed the pattern every long-running fraud follows. The first checks were small, $4,000, $6,000, $11,000. The second year's checks were bigger, $30,000, $45,000. A single transfer of $72,000 from the account of a retired teacher with late-stage Alzheimer's living in a Bryn Mawr memory care facility. And then she found the thrift savings plan. Her ward was a retired federal employee, a man who had worked 31 years for the Department of Veterans Affairs and served 2 tours in Vietnam before that. After a stroke at age 76, he had been moved into a memory care facility in Havertown. He had no living children. His sister had died the year before he became Gloria's ward. His thrift savings plan, the federal government's retirement vehicle for civil servants, held just over $800,000. Over the course of 14 months, Gloria Byars drained $756,000 from that single account. The withdrawals were structured to look like medical expenses, end-of-life care payments, and durable medical equipment purchases. Every dollar went into shell accounts. Not a single dollar paid for his actual care. He died in the memory care facility in 2019 with less than $4,000 to his name. The signs were everywhere, and no one looked. Gloria and her husband bought a new home. They took vacations to the Bahamas. Her brother Carlton, who had been working as a low-wage warehouse laborer in northeast Philadelphia, suddenly purchased a luxury SUV and began wearing custom suits to family gatherings. Alicia Mitchell relocated to a higher rent apartment in Northern Virginia. The wards, meanwhile, were dying in facilities that had quietly stopped receiving their full monthly payments from their guardianship accounts. Bills went unpaid. Prescriptions were skipped. One 93-year-old woman was moved to a lower-tier facility because her guardian's accounting showed she could no longer afford the better one. Her actual estate, before Gloria touched it, had enough money to cover a decade of premium care. And then there was the safe deposit box. One of Gloria's wards, an older woman from Center City who had collected gold coins for 40 years as a hedge against inflation, kept 36 South African Krugerrands in a safe deposit box at a bank on Walnut Street. Each coin held 1 full troy ounce of gold. Each coin, at 2018 market value, was worth roughly $1,300. Gloria emptied the box. The coins were never recovered as a collection. Federal prosecutors would later list them by serial sequence in her plea agreement, forfeited to the United States. The unraveling did not begin with an audit. It did not begin with a whistleblower. It did not begin with a victim's family member noticing a missing check. It began with a piece of paper from 2005. In late 2018, a paralegal at a Philadelphia law firm was preparing a guardianship contest on behalf of an adult son who believed his mother's guardian was mismanaging her estate. The mother was one of Gloria Byars' wards. The paralegal, working through standard due diligence, ran a background check on Gloria Byars through a federal records aggregator the firm subscribed to. The 2005 federal wire fraud and bank fraud conviction appeared on the first page of the report. The paralegal forwarded the report to her supervising attorney. The supervising attorney forwarded it to a senior judge at Philadelphia Orphans Court. There was no rule on the books in 2018 requiring a court-appointed guardian to disclose a prior federal fraud conviction. There was no requirement that the court itself check. But once the conviction was in front of a judge, the question stopped being procedural and started being moral. How had a convicted federal fraudster, who had served 37 months in federal prison for stealing from an elderly woman in Drexel Hill, been appointed by this same court system to serve as legal guardian for more than 100 incapacitated wards? The judge ordered an immediate review of every active case Gloria Byars held. The court requested annual accountings. The court requested bank statements. The court requested invoices from every medical provider Gloria had paid from any ward account. The invoices did not exist. The medical providers did not exist. When court auditors began calling the addresses listed for Premier Medical Logistics LLC, Coastal Medical Solutions LLC, and Atlas Healthcare Administration, they reached vacant office suites, residential apartments, and one location that turned out to be a rented UPS mailbox in a strip mall in Chesapeake, Virginia. By February of 2019, Philadelphia Orphans Court had referred the matter to the United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. Federal investigators from the FBI's Philadelphia Field Office and IRS Criminal Investigation opened their case the same month. What had started as a single question about a single ward had become, within 60 days, a multi-agency federal investigation into the largest guardianship fraud the district had ever seen. Gloria Byars was still working. She was still filing annual accountings on the wards already assigned to her. She was still showing up at Orphans Court for the routine hearings every guardian must attend. She was still, in the language of her profession, in good standing. She was also being watched. Federal investigators subpoenaed her bank records, her brother's bank records, and Alicia Mitchell's bank records. They subpoenaed the Virginia Shell Company filings. They subpoenaed the LLC formation paperwork. They subpoenaed her phone records. They subpoenaed the wire transfer logs of every regional bank that had ever cleared a check signed by her hand. The paper trail did not just connect to the fraud, it documented every step of it. We are heading into the federal investigation now. If you want to know exactly how the system handled this case, subscribe and stick with me. The reform that came out of this story quietly changed every guardianship petition filed in Pennsylvania after 2019, and almost nobody outside the legal community knows it happened. Drop a comment if you have ever had a loved one under court-appointed guardianship. These cases need more eyes on them. The federal investigation took just over 2 years to build. From February 2019 through June 2021, FBI special agents in the Philadelphia Field Office and IRS CI agents working from the Center City building cataloged every check, every wire transfer, every shell company filing, every deposit slip, and every signature card Gloria Byars and her co-conspirators had touched. They identified at least 120 victims. Some had died during the investigation itself. Some still survived in memory care facilities, unaware that anyone had stolen from them, unaware that anyone had taken the time to investigate. Agents interviewed dozens of adult children, cousins, nieces, and nephews. The relatives who had trusted the court to handle what they could not handle themselves. They built a complete map of the shell network. Premier Medical Logistics LLC was registered to Carlton Rembert as sole owner of record, with a registered agent in Norfolk. Coastal Medical Solutions LLC named Alicia Mitchell as sole owner. Atlas Healthcare Administration was nominally owned by a woman who turned out to be Carlton's longtime girlfriend, who told investigators she had signed paperwork she did not read and had no involvement in any business her boyfriend was running. Meridian Patient Services was registered to a mail drop in Chesapeake with no physical presence and no employees. The financial evidence was overwhelming. Investigators traced more than $1 million in unauthorized transfers from ward accounts. They documented the thrift savings plan drain. They documented the safe deposit box theft. They documented the upgrades to Gloria's home, the Bahamas vacations, her brother's vehicle purchases, the apartment relocations. But the smoking gun was a single ledger. Inside Gloria Byars' home office, in a locked drawer of the roll-top desk in the converted front bedroom of the Aldan twin house, investigators recovered a handwritten ledger during the execution of a search warrant in April of 2021. It listed ward names down the left column. It listed shell company names across the top. It listed dollar amounts in the cells. The columns were totaled at the bottom of each page. The last entry was dated 3 weeks before the search. She had kept her own records of the theft, in her own handwriting. Text message evidence corroborated everything. Investigators recovered exchanges between Gloria, Carlton, and Alicia, covering nearly 3 years of operational coordination. Gloria to Carlton on March 14, 2018. Need you to open another one, medical sounding, same as before. Carlton to Gloria, the same day. How fast? Gloria to Carlton, 22 minutes later. 2 weeks, I have a big one coming. Alicia to Gloria on August 22, 2018. The Havertown one cleared. Want me to move it? Gloria to Alicia that evening. Yes, same as last time. Half to operating, half to the savings. By the spring of 2021, federal prosecutors had everything they needed. On June 17th of that year, a federal grand jury sitting in Philadelphia returned a multi-count indictment against Gloria Byars, Carlton Rembert, and Alicia Mitchell. The charges included conspiracy to commit wire fraud, money laundering, and filing false tax returns. The morning of the indictment, federal agents arrived at Gloria Byars' twin house in Aldan at 6:15 in the morning. The street was quiet. The neighbors who would later be interviewed by local reporters said they did not see the vehicles arrive, only the agents standing on the front porch when they left for work an hour later. Gloria answered the door in a robe. The lead agent identified himself, presented a copy of the indictment, and asked her to step outside. She did not step outside. She asked to see the paperwork. She read it standing in her own doorway, holding the warrant in both hands, her reading glasses pushed up onto her forehead. Her husband appeared behind her in the hallway. He did not speak. "This is a mistake," Gloria said. "I am a court-appointed guardian. I have files on every one of these people. I have receipts. I have invoices. This is a misunderstanding." The agent told her she would have an opportunity to address the charges through her attorney. "I want to see who filed this," she said. "I want to see who reported me." The agent told her again that she would have that opportunity in court. She was placed in handcuffs on her own front porch in her bathrobe. She was walked to a federal vehicle parked at the end of the driveway. She did not look at the camera. She did not look at her husband. She did not look at the neighbors who had begun to gather across the street. For the next 2.5 years, she would maintain her innocence in every court appearance. She would file motions to dismiss. She would change defense attorneys twice. She would request continuances. She would tell anyone who would listen that the records would exonerate her if anyone would just take the time to read them properly. On November 16, 2023, 3 business days before jury selection in her federal trial was scheduled to begin, Gloria Byars walked into the United States District Courthouse on Market Street and pleaded guilty to every count in the indictment. The plea agreement was specific: conspiracy to commit wire fraud, money laundering, filing a false tax return. The forfeiture schedule listed 36 South African Krugerrand gold coins by serial number, the Aldan home, 3 vehicles, the contents of 7 bank accounts, and approximately $140,000 in cash recovered from a safe in the basement of her brother's residence in Northeast Philadelphia. Sentencing was scheduled for the following spring. She would not be there. On the morning of February 6, 2024, Gloria Byars was found unresponsive in her home. Emergency services were called. She was pronounced dead at the scene. The Delaware County Medical Examiner ruled the death a suicide, caused by the combined toxic effects of several prescription medications taken in deliberate overdose. She was 61 years old. She had pleaded guilty. She had not been sentenced. The federal case against her personally was formally closed by the United States District Court on March 4, 2024, following the standard procedure for a deceased defendant. The ward she had stolen from would not see her sentenced. The families of the wards she had stolen from would not hear a judge address her conduct from the bench. The retired federal employee whose thrift savings plan she had drained had been dead for 5 years already. But the case did not end with her death. Her brother, Carlton Rembert, went to trial. He had refused every plea offer extended to him over 2.5 years. He had maintained throughout the indictment that he was a passive owner of corporate entities he barely understood, that his sister had handled all of it, that he had signed paperwork without reading it. The jury did not believe him. After 4 days of testimony, including the introduction of every text message, every bank record, every deposit slip, and every shell company filing, the jury convicted Carlton Rembert on all counts. On October 11, 2024, United States District Judge Mitchell C. Pendergrass sentenced Carlton Rembert to 66 months in federal prison, followed by 5 years of supervised release, and ordered him to pay $534,335 in restitution to the victims his sister had robbed. At sentencing, the adult son of the thrift savings plan victim addressed the court. His name was Reginald Hollings. His father had served 2 tours in Vietnam, retired from the Department of Veterans Affairs after 31 years, and saved every dollar of his TSP for the family he would leave behind. "My father did everything right," Reginald told the court. "He worked, he saved, he served his country, and when he could no longer protect himself, this court appointed someone to do it for him. That person and her brother, sitting at that table, stole every dollar he ever earned, and they let him die in a facility he could have afforded the best room in. There is no sentence that gives my father his money back. There is no sentence that returns his dignity. But I will say his name out loud in this courtroom today, so the record reflects he existed. Walter James Hollings." Alicia Mitchell pleaded guilty separately and was sentenced to a lesser federal term with restitution attached. The most lasting consequence of the case, however, came not from any sentencing transcript, but from the Philadelphia Orphans Court itself. In the year following Gloria Byars' indictment, the court instituted a new rule. Every applicant for guardianship appointment in Philadelphia must now affirm, under oath and in writing, that they have no prior convictions involving fraud, deceit, or financial misconduct. Every applicant must submit a state criminal history report attached to their petition. The reform mirrored recommendations the Pennsylvania Supreme Court's Orphans Court Procedural Rules Committee had been considering for years. After the Byars case, those recommendations stopped being considered. They became the rule. The wards she had not yet been appointed over were spared. The wards she had already drained could not be made whole. This case was disturbing. But this next case on the right-hand side is even more shocking. Click it now.